Universities years ago used social media as a bulletin board. We'd tell our stories, and then people would want to remind students that it's time to register for classes, and we would post that. And we were really using it as a place to put all of the content that we didn't know what to do with. And we have flipped that, and we say no to a lot of content. We are measuring, we use data all day, every day to look at what's performing well, what types of content our audiences are responding to and engaging with.
Hey, welcome to the Higher Ed Storytelling University podcast, a show where we bring together Marcom leaders from both inside and outside higher ed to give you fresh perspectives on successful organic content creation and strategy in higher education. My name is John Azzoni. I'm the founder at Unveiled, a video production company working specifically with colleges on their storytelling and commercial video content. You can learn more about our work at unveiled.tv. That's UNVEILD. And if creating content that resonates emotionally with your audience is a priority for you, then you need to be subscribed to the Higher Ed Storytellers Digest. It's my weekly newsletter where we cover a lot of ground about content creation and strategy in higher ed. So sign up for that for free at unveiled.tv/newsletter. All right, let's get on with the show. My guest today is Amy West. Amy is the Associate Vice President for Marketing and Brand Strategy at Bowling Green State University, and she's got a really impressive team over there that I've gotten to know lately. Super impressed, and they're doing great creative work, winning national rankings and things like that. So I want to talk about how she's built this powerhouse team. And Amy, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I like to start off every episode by asking tell me something people would be surprised to know about you.
Well, I think they would be surprised to know that I actually started out as an accounting major, and I have an associate's degree in accounting. And then, I had this amazing high school accounting teacher who, made me think that accounting was my future. And then I quickly realized that I'm much better with words than numbers, but I did finish the associate degree. And that's actually how I got my foot in the door at Bowling Green State University, because they had a position open for a budget person and a production person in the marketing and communications office. And I took that role, and, I had finished a communications degree, and then I later went on and did a master's degree in communications, but it was really that accounting degree that started my path in higher education.
That's awesome. I remember my accounting class in high school and my teacher just being like, dude, this... I feel like he sat me down and was like, this spreadsheet does not balance even close. Let's just, take this off your list of aspirations.
Sure. Well, it's amazing how influential, teachers are as you're going through school.
Yeah. And here I am as a videographer, which is like at least 50% budget management.
Well, ironically, I use that associate in accounting all the time, because in my role, I'm in charge of a pretty significant budget. So,
Yeah.
It's come in handy, I have to say.
Yeah, I've gotten good at the budgeting, and I do all of our budgeting for our household and stuff like that. So I'm good with budgets, but when it comes to you have to, every penny has to balance. I'm like, I can't, I don't know. But that's awesome. Yeah. And so, and I know when we had our pre-call, you talked about having kind of a varied, set of experience that led you to your position now. So I want to talk about what that journey's been like for you. How does one get to your level? What was your unique journey like?
Well, I've talked to a lot of different people in my position, and I don't think anyone goes to college because they want to be the chief marketing and communications officer at a university. I think everyone I talk to, we kind of stumble into this. And I mentioned I started here as a budget and production person, and I have been here now about 25 years, and I think I've held almost every position in this department, which has been helpful because it's really given me a great overview of how the teams work together and how we can make adjustments to really leverage every single individual on this team. I think most of us, like me, get our foot in the door in higher education and you fall in love with it because it's very meaningful. There's something about a college campus that just, you just feel like you're part of this great community and the students are wonderful. And over the years, I've thought, oh, maybe I should try something different or a different industry, but I can never bring myself to leave. And, the people I talk to, I think they feel the same way. There's something very alluring about higher education.
Yeah, I mean, I don't work directly in higher education, but I interface with a lot of, people that do, obviously, and it seems like a real family atmosphere. The other day I do some work with a business school here in Michigan, and I report to their head marketing director, but then he has an assistant who was a student and like then became a marketing intern and now works full time, and she just got married and he had her wedding in his backyard.
That's awesome.
I was like, oh, that's so cool. That's just like I mean, what a show of like, ultimate, I don't know, family, like solidarity on your team in higher ed.
Right. It really is. There's something about, walking to a meeting across campus and you recognize people and you talk to people, and it's amazing how many of the students you get to know and other faculty and staff. So it does feel like really either a really big family or a really small community, but it's very rewarding.
Yeah. So I got to know you. I was introduced to you through Brianna Blackburn, who is the social media. Well, she just got a promotion. What is her
She
official?
did. She's associate director of social media, and she's really amazing. She's doing some just innovative and great work here at the university. And, I think a big part of the success that we're having is because of our social media presence.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's how I got connected with you. And really, I mean, I was a fan of BGSU's content before because I've seen it on TikTok and things like that. But yeah, and so I've gotten to talk to some of your other folks on your team as well. And a just really impressive bunch of people that just seem to really enjoy their jobs and have fun with creating. And I just feel like the conversations that I've had, they're just like living in their passion. So this episode, I kind of want to dig into that. Like, how have you built a culture that's just all like fire? I mean, I'm sure it's not all, perfect, but from the outside, from my perspective, seems like it's firing on all cylinders here. So when you came to BGSU, like what did you start with? What did you notice about like the marketing strategy that needed to change? Where did that transformation start?
Sure. Well, I think with anyone in marketing would say that one of the most challenging parts of this industry is that it changes constantly. There's every day there's new digital tactics, there's new social media platforms. Google changes the way its search is managed. So, you finally find a sweet spot and then suddenly you have to pivot because what was yielding great results yesterday is suddenly not performing as well. And when I took this role, we had one social media person who did an amazing job. I mean, she built all of our social platforms. She built a following, but she was one person. And that was definitely, I saw that as an opportunity to get more eyes on our content. We shifted really from, I think, a social last mindset to a social first mindset. And knowing that social is where we can tell our own story, we don't have to rely on other people to tell it for us. So as I restructured a bit, I put a heavy emphasis on social. We went from having one full time social person to now we have three. I'm hoping to add a fourth. We had two photographers who were learning to do some video work, but we didn't, and they were great. And I mean, honestly, they were able to teach themselves and do some great work. But we hired additional people that had a video background. So we went from one social person to three full time social team members, and then we had two photographers, and now we have four, one photographer, three videographers. So our associate director of social, which is Brianna, and then our associate director of video, his name is Justin, and the two of them work side by side. They're so collaborative. They're always bouncing ideas off of each other and brainstorming, and their teams have really together built this incredible social media presence. And I think universities years ago, and we did this too, we used social media as a bulletin board. We'd
Hmm.
tell our stories, and then people would want to remind students that it's time to register for classes, and we would post that. Or we'd remind people to register for an event. And we were really using it as a place to put all of the content that we didn't know what to do with. And we have flipped that and we say no to a lot of content. We are measuring, we use data all day, every day to look at what's performing well, what types of content our audiences are responding to and engaging with. And if we find things that are not performing well, then we stop posting that type of content. We really focus on what we know will perform well. Brianna does an amazing job at anticipating trends and getting in front of those. So,
Hmm.
when a trend emerges, she's on it and has something out often the same day, and those perform so well. I definitely watch some of those and I don't get it, but I feel like I'm not supposed to, and that's okay. She has my full trust in the types of things she's posting. And sometimes I'll see something and think, okay, I don't get this, but I trust her. And sure enough, it will be one of our top performing posts that month. So she really has a sense about what type of content is going to really perform well.
Yeah, when she was on the podcast, I had to have her explain one of the trends to me because I'm like, listen, I don't get this. I bet you get it. Like, and she explained it to me. So yeah, she's on it. And Justin too. And like between the two of them, they're both so fun. And I've gotten a chance to interview Justin as well for a different context. Really enjoyed talking to him and just talking shop with like production stuff like that. Two people that are just super fun to talk to and just would just be great to work for. I think that probably that positivity,
They
probably does a lot of good.
they are incredible. And I've worked really hard to build a team that is positive and collaborative. I think in higher education marketing, it's maybe any marketing team, but it's so easy to get siloed among your teams. And, as I've hired people, I've talked about the importance in our culture of working well together and being collaborative and looking out for each other and stepping up to help another team member when they need it. And we've really built an incredible team here that, I say you can teach skill, but honestly, above all, they're really positive and kind. And I think that's made people want to work harder, and they genuinely enjoy each other. So, it's
Hmm.
every day I see people brainstorming and bouncing ideas off of each other, and it's been great. And as I've interviewed people to work in this department, I've really talked about the culture and how important that is. And I've had people who we've ended up hiring come back and say, when you talked about that in the interview, I really thought that was all, just something that everybody says. But you're right. This really is the kindest team. It's a creative team. Everything you said was true. So that's
Hmm.
made me feel really good.
Yeah, awesome. Student and alumni success stories. You want to be doing more videos like this, showcasing outcomes from your student and alumni, but you're not. Why? Well, you probably know it's one of the most effective ways of communicating your school's value to prospective students, according to just about any Marcom leader you ask, or like fancy infographic you look at. But until now, you didn't know that it could be easy. You might have visions of the logistical nightmare of coordinating video shoot after video shoot and managing the firestorm of emails, trying to align everyone's schedules and all that. But what if all you had to do was find the stories to tell and hand them off, and then compelling videos just magically appear in your inbox? Here's how our storytelling subscriptions work. We're going to batch film a year's worth of student alumni stories. It could be faculty stories, any kind of like human story over the course of a handful of days of production. And then every month, drip out one of those stories plus a whole package of additional videos repurposed from that month's story to fill your content calendar with across the entire year. When it's all said and done, you're going to have 132 polished, branded videos. And here's the icing on the cake. We're going to give you all of that B-roll and raw interview footage. So you can use that however you want at no additional charge, like, trust me, a lot of other production companies would likely charge you extra for. So learn more at unveiled.tv. And if you want to talk more in detail, you can book a call with me, John, right there on our website. Okay, back to the show. I wanted to ask you, because you said the idea that like social media is no longer this bulletin board. I mean, I'm on LinkedIn all day, every day, and I see so many higher ed marketers that are supposed to be the ones that know how to do this, not understanding social media, at least not understanding the LinkedIn platform. I think we're really moving towards like this 0-click sort of platform native type stuff. And I think a lot of people just don't know what to do with that. And so, yeah, like taking it away from, it's no longer just a place to like dump stuff and like just like get clicks to your website. Now it's like you really have to treat it like it's its own community. This is where the people that you have to give everyone the information as if they're not going to go anywhere else to get the information. And I think you guys do a really great job of that. And then the other thing you said too was like really paying attention to data and stopping doing the things that aren't working. Because I think with content creation and content strategy, we have a vision for our school and our brand and our message that we want to work. We want this to be the case, that this is really popular because this is what we want to sell, or this is how we want to say it. This is how we, the millennials think it should be said, and it flops and we have to like respond to the data. What kind of tools are you guys using to track that data? Is there anything special, or is it just like within the platform, like TikTok's analytics or something like that?
We use Sprout Social, so I'll give a plug to Sprout Social, and it's been a game changer. The reporting and the analytics are in depth. You can measure your analytics against competitor analytics. So that has been, it is definitely worth the investment for us. You said something that is so true, and it's something we talk about all the time, and that I think people, they say what universities go out and they talk about themselves, but we've really emphasized thinking about our audiences and the storytelling we do. We can have a research story that's about algal blooms in Lake Erie, and we can write that in a really scientific way that we like to talk about it, but no one is going to be interested in that because they don't know that it has any impact or relevance in their life. So we're taking that same story and really talking about how it impacts drinking water. And so we're taking our content and thinking about it from a broad appeal. How do we tell this in a way that is relevant to a very wide audience? And that has been a game changer in the analytics of people clicking on these stories and the time spent reading the story. And those are all metrics that we're monitoring daily.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think about that a lot as I'm looking, critically at various content and things like that. I'm always thinking like, why should someone care about this? Or what did they think that someone would care about with this article? Right. And you're right. It's like, it has to connect to like what's going on in their lives. So the drinking water is a great example, because like every morning I'm kind of like, I would rather just fill up the coffee pot with tap water because it's faster. But I have to go to my slow refrigerator, which takes like, I feel like I'm standing there for 5 minutes for this thing to fill up, because I know that there's fluoride in the water and all this stuff. And it's, but like that's the stuff that like is impactful in people's lives. It might not be like real scientific, but it's like here, we've done all this research, but let me translate that for you, let me curate a message for you that, that you're going to understand. And I think academics have a really hard time dumbing things down.
Very hard time. And I think we still have improvements we can make there, but there's such a distrust in higher education anyway. And I think it's so important to make sure that we are sharing all of the impacts that we're making in our communities. It's not just about you come here and you get a degree. That's a huge part of it, but it's also the research that's improving communities and, teachers that we are educating and putting out in classrooms. So I think telling our story in a way that highlights how important higher ed is also important.
Yeah, absolutely. It really is so much broader than just a pathway to a career, which, yeah, that's a big part of it, but it's also it's like this 4 or 5 years of being part of something,
Right, right,
for me in art school, I was like, yeah, I studied like painting and stuff like that. And for me, that 4 years was really just about immersing myself in a passion that I had. And I'm like, it was like no other experience. You could look at like the ROI and it's like, oh, have I gotten a return on the investment of art school? Absolutely not. Like by selling paintings, but like, I don't know that I would be the videographer that I am today had I not been like around all those creative people and like been a part of this and like made all these friends and learned from all these professors and been forced to like play with different styles of, of art. And I imagine that translates a lot to like environmental studies or just,
right.
cool internships and things like that. Going back to your team, I want to talk about what was the hiring process like for you? Like what were you looking for in some of the star hires that you like? What were you looking for? What did you see in them? What should others be looking for when they're hiring?
I was looking for people that brought ideas to the table, people that seemed really creative, seemed very collaborative, easy to work with. There's a lot of competition in higher education, especially in Ohio. There's lots of universities. We're all competing for the same students. So I was looking for people who were thinking of what's the next big thing we can do that's innovative and is going to, get ahead of some of the competition that we have. So that was a lot of when I was interviewing, a lot of the questions were around how would you do this or what are opportunities that we're missing and really trying to get people to talk about innovation.
Yeah, it's so much more compelling to work with someone that isn't just going to be a dead fish, and say, tell me
Right.
what to do, but like brings ideas and knowledge of the industry to the table and has a vision for they even start working there,
Right.
you know.
I would say in almost any marketing shop at any university, the majority of work coming into that department is work being asked by campus partners. They have an event, they need that promoted, they have an initiative that they want to talk about. And one of the things I've challenged this group to do is, that is part of what we do and it's an important part, but it shouldn't be 100% of what we do. I'm trying to get to a model where it's maybe 50% of the work coming in, and the other 50% is us coming up with our own projects that are going to elevate our brand and also expand our brand. So having that creativity and thinking ahead of our competition is so important.
Yeah, absolutely. So with three videographers, like what, because you must get a lot of requests. There must be just a lot of stuff to do. First of all, can you tell me like what's the layout of those three videographers? What's like the chain of command there?
We have a photographer who's been here for decades, and he's one of the most creative and talented people I've ever worked with. He focuses he does have his drones license so he can fly drone, but he also, I would say, focuses mostly on the photography now that we've been able to hire videographers. So we have Craig Bell, who's director of photography, and then we have Justin, who leads our video team, and then he has two people that report to him that focus solely on video, but they all are capable of taking great photos as well. So, they're back up to Craig, but that is the structure. And then they all work really closely with Brianna and our social team to curate content.
Hmm. So how do you decide what gets done in terms of the workflow of like requests coming in? Like how do you decide what to say no to? How do you communicate the no to them?
Well, it's funny you brought that up because when I started hiring people, I really worked hard to improve marketing's reputation across campus and being a good campus partner and being easy to work with. And I always say, let's try to start from a place of yes. So it's become a little bit of a joke around the office, but the video resources, I protect the most because you know how long it takes to produce a video.
Yeah.
So we come up with a list for the year of here are the top probably 10 videos that we want to do. These are top priority. They are the videos that are going to get the most eyes and have the widest reach. Then we would probably, after that, prioritize anything that our admissions office might need. So sometimes there's a certain program we want to promote, like engineering is a big program for us right now. So,
Mm.
we'll make sure we have resources to do an engineering video. There are a lot of videos that we have to say no to. And honestly, if you explain to people the ROI and the reach and the resources it takes, people are pretty gracious when you tell them no. And we also can offer an alternative. We have lots of freelancers that we use. So if it's something they really need and we just can't accommodate it, I can get them a budget and set them up with a freelancer.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Yeah, because there's a lot of ways to get something done. But I like your idea of like sort of yes and, or the answer could always be yes, but that means we're having to say no to
Right.
to a bunch of other stuff. What does distribution look like for you guys? Like how are you using, let's say, like, more like long form pieces of video? How are you using those, like on, on your website or across email communications?
All of those things. When we have a video that is long form, I make sure that our admissions office has it and they can include that in communications to prospective students. We make sure we're including it in communications that go out to parents and families. We work with our alumni office to make sure that they have videos that we think might be of interest to our alumni audience. So we try to leverage all of the content we produce as widely as we can. We, have a kind of that Swiss cheese approach where, if you layer enough pieces of Swiss cheese, there are no holes. And we put so much time and effort into every piece of content that we're making sure we use all of the channels that we can to get that out there and get the most eyes on it.
I love that. And I've been thinking about that a lot lately, is just distribution. And I think that's a big problem in higher ed. Like,
It is because I think it's so easy to create this amazing content, a long form written story, a long form video. You put it on the website and you really hope people stumble across it. And that's not going to happen. You really have to serve it to them. We're all humans. We're lazy. We want everything served to us. We're not going to go dig for it. So we make sure we're doing that.
yeah, absolutely. So you told me in our pre-call that like enrollment is in a pretty positive space for you
Yes,
guys. So
we
tell me about that.
We have the highest incoming freshman class in university history. We are up 23% over the last 2 years. So, really, really strong numbers. Our retention is also at a historic high.
What would you attribute that to? If someone were to ask you, Amy, how do I increase enrollment by 23% in the next 2 years?
Well, I'd love to say, just invest in your marketing team, but it's so much more than that.
Yeah.
We have There's a lot of momentum here. We have a great president. There are a lot of positive things happening at the university. We've implemented this life design program that's one of the largest in the countries. We have a whole division of student success and engagement, lots of new partnerships. We have a career hub that's doing amazing things. So there's a lot of great things happening. And I think where we've been successful is we're making sure people know about it. And we're doing that through social, through media partnerships, through paid advertising. And we're just making sure that we are leveraging all of those stories so that it helps elevate and expand our brand into new areas as well.
That's awesome. I love that. There's all this enrollment cliff stuff, and it was very doom and gloom for the last couple of years. But now I'm seeing like there's schools that are like, hey, our enrollment's actually up,
Right.
when we're expecting it to be down.
Right. I think the demographic cliff has shifted a little bit. So, I think it's still coming in a couple of years, but we have a bit of a reprieve, which is nice. So it's an important time to leverage that growth and position ourselves so that we are ready for that in 2027 ish. I think is when
Mhm.
it's coming.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, when you it was sort of a social media last culture that you transformed it to a little more of a social media first culture. What were those conversations like with leadership? That how did you get buy-in for making that shift?
That was probably the only part of this that was easy
Oh,
because our president has a business background. He definitely appreciates marketing and realizes how important it is. So there was no convincing there. I mean, that was a very easy conversation, not just with the president, but our board. I mean, when I took this role, I talked to our board a few times and presented a strategy, and they were all on board with thinking about elevating our social channels and putting more resources there.
hmm, awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. And just talking to Brianna and seeing some of the TikTok videos, your president does seem like a really cool guy, down for anything kind of thing.
He is such a big part of our brand, and he's willing to do anything. He is so busy, but he is willing to be in any of our videos. We're working on a holiday video coming up that I think is going to be incredible, and he's going to have a big role in that. Sandy Earl, his wife, is also willing to be part of our content. And President Rogers, the students love him. You
Mm.
walk across campus with him and they want to get their picture, and you have to stop about 10 times to get selfies. And he never says no. He knows everyone's name. He's, on Halloween, I think it was last year, he dressed up as a giant orange dinosaur. So I don't know if you saw that content, but he'll do these surprise pop up Starbucks
Yeah,
mornings where the first 500 students get free Starbucks. So he really engages our students, and Brianna and Justin do such a good job of leveraging that and making sure that we get him out front and center.
I love that. I'm going to put you on the spot here. And I didn't include this in my question list that I sent you, but so if you don't have an answer off the top of your head, we'll edit this part out. But I'm curious to know, like, what are some of your highlights in terms of like specific pieces of content that you guys have created that maybe the whole team kind of rallied around, or that just were really successful or were especially fun to create?
Well, we just did my very favorite. I don't know if you saw this. It's selling BGSU video that we did. It's
Yes.
sort of a spin-off of Selling Sunset.
Selling Sunset. Yeah.
It was so much fun. And we did work with an agency that helped us with that. Early Birds is the name of the company. That was so much fun. And we've had such great engagement with that video. We've done a few holiday videos that have been really fun. Something else that Brianna is so, she always wants to try new things, and she approached me, oh, I don't know, maybe a year ago we did this for the first time about bringing an influencer to campus.
Hmm.
And, I was a little nervous because it felt a little risky, but I also trust Brianna. She has never steered me wrong. So we did that. And since then, we've done it a couple times. And I think 2 weeks ago, we launched a speed tour of campus that, has, I think, over 1 million views because the influencer has such a great following. We're going to release another one this week, a second one, but those have performed so well and they have increased our followers. We get a lot of feedback at admissions visit days when they ask, well, why didn't you come and visit? And we have people say, oh, I follow you on social, and it's your social's so good. We just wanted to check out this university. So I think, Brianna thinking outside the box like that has moved the needle.
Who is the influencer? Do you remember their name?
Well, Ely was the first one. Trent Miller is the speed tour.
Okay.
So Trent Miller did the speed tour, and we'll have another one coming out. But they're funny. I don't know if you're familiar with his work, but he's a realtor and he does speed tours of the houses. So we had him come to campus. I think he's out of Pennsylvania, so not too far. And he came to campus and filmed these, and they are really funny. So this year we did kind of a whole series around, people say BGSU feels like home. And we did a whole series around this with kind of that real estate
Yeah.
theme. And we did a BGSU cribs video that performed really well. We did the selling BGSU. We're working on Residence Hall Hunters, kind of that's themed after House Hunters. And then we had these this Trent Miller comes. So that's been so much fun. And I've really liked being able to space these out over, over the fall semester, and they all have this great theme.
That's awesome. And so does he post those on his account, or are
He,
you kind of using
yes,
his face on yours?
he posts them on his, which has been great because he has, I think, over 1 million followers. So
Wow.
these videos are getting so much traction.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's such a great idea. I love that the idea of home, but then taking it to like I don't know why real estate is so fascinating, but like every time I'm in a waiting room somewhere, there's always a real like a house
I
hunting,
know,
selling some sort of real estate thing going on, and it is fascinating.
right?
I'm
When we,
waiting for a college to do like a trashy dating show. Um People
hmm,
have listened to this podcast for a while know I love is blind. I'm like obsessed with it's terrible, but it's so intriguing to me.
that
Um
that's one of the hard parts about higher ed because there are so many edgy things that you can do, but you do have to be a little bit careful. When we
yeah.
talked about the kind of that housing theme, we all brainstorm really well together, and some of the group is like, well, does this resonate with students or is this more parents? So that's how we came up with the idea to do a whole series. Then we did a written piece that looks like Architectural Digest, and it's really cool architectural images of campus spots that Craig Bell, our photographer, did, and that piece has performed really well too. So we've had this whole theme around housing that has something for every audience.
Yeah, I'm curious how you navigated those conversations and how did you monitor who it was resonating with? Because off the top of my head, now that you say that, I'm kind of like, yeah, I like, if I'm thinking about like, when my daughter's going to college and a real estate thing would probably appeal to me. I'm not sure that it would readily appeal to my kids, but like, what did you guys notice with that?
Well, when we had this conversation, we thought, okay, this the selling BGSU video might resonate more with parents, but we've got the BGSU cribs and the speed tours that would resonate with students. But what we really found was we have a pretty strong social following and a really loyal base. I think they performed well with both. I think all three performed well with both audiences, and the comments were great. So I don't know. I think if you have engaging content, it's going to perform well across the board.
Yeah, and if you have existing follower base that's along for the ride, you can get away with a lot, and they're gonna love it because
Yes,
it's just kind of part of the channel, that
right.
you're serving content to them of all kinds.
Even our board members will comment, oh, I saw this on TikTok and it was so funny. So I think Bowling Green does have a really loyal following, and across the board, I think there's a lot of pride in the institution. So the content seems to be resonating with that, and people are sharing it. And of course, that only increases your metrics.
Yeah, and so you guys were ranked in the top 10 or something like
I think
that.
number 6.
Number 6. What was the ranking? Tell me about that.
So recently, Rival IQ ranked Bowling Green number 6 in top Division One higher education institutions on social overall. So we're really proud of that. I think Brianna just mentioned another ranking that came through where we were number 1 for engagement. And if you look at our engagement rates alongside our peers, they are extremely high.
That's great. And, engagement's huge. Getting people to comment and stuff really like kind of pushes things along in the algorithm. And I think
Mhm.
it's a difficult task, I think, to get people to comment on something.
Right.
I think we're very used to, I'm very much like a comment lurker. Like I will run to the comment section for something that's controversial or something and I'll scroll through. I'm very reluctant to like make a comment.
Same.
But I feel like someone put this in a TikTok that came across my feed the other day, that some of the most funniest comedians in the world are just in the comment section. And he was like showing screenshots from like this one post's comment section, and it's just like these brilliant comments that are just like comedic genius. But yeah, that's what I go to the comment section for. Sometimes I'm cracking up the most at comments, but it's a tough task, sometimes to get
Right.
people to like go beyond just like scrolling and go, oh, cool, that's funny, haha,
Right.
okay, bye bye. You know,
Yeah. I mean, increasing our following is obviously important, but we have prioritized increasing engagement above everything else. And you're right. I mean, that really feeds into that algorithm. People see more of your content, but our engagement is really high.
yeah, that's awesome. So looking ahead, like what's your vision for further expanding the creative efforts at Bowling Green? Like, how do you plan to keep going? What's next for you guys?
Well, you know, I have a great boss, Cecilia Castellano, who is the VP of Enrollment Management. And as she says, good work is always rewarded with more work.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a lot more work to do. So I would say, thinking ahead, it's continuing to focus on that model where we are coming up with 50% of our own work and coming up with new ideas that we can execute, and we're not getting bogged down with simply requests coming in of us. So that's a big part of it. I want to continue to put more resources into content, hiring another videographer. We have a position open right now. So if there's any amazing videographers out there that would like to apply, please check out our website. But putting
Absolutely.
more resources into that area, really thinking about how we can continue to tell our stories in different ways. Attention spans get shorter and shorter every day. We still do write long form stories, but thinking about how we can tell our stories through video or photo essays, and make sure we're segmenting some of that content for each audience.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So, final thoughts here. What advice would you give to people wanting to build a really thriving creative marketing team?
That's a good question. My career has been in higher education. And as I've hired, I've brought people in from agencies, I've brought people in from healthcare, I've brought people in from lots of different industries. So that's brought a wide breadth of experience and ideas. I listen to podcasts a lot. I don't know if you've ever listened to Jamie Hunt's podcast, but
Mm-hmm.
I also listened to one about marketing maturity model, and then at a conference, I went to a session. I think it was Indiana University that did this, and I looked into that, and we've been working on that here with my leadership team. And one of the things that we've really focused on is, you know, it's good to hire people who are generalists, and we've done that, but I've also been able to hire people who are experts in their area. And I have an advertising director who, she is incredible, and she's, really shifted that paid advertising strategy
Mm.
to do more social advertising and more video advertising. And then I have people like Brianna and Justin who are experts in their field. So I think bringing in a team who is from many different industries and who are experts in their field has been a game changer. I would consider myself a generalist. I can do a little bit of everything,
Yeah.
but I'm not an expert on anything. I think the one thing maybe I'm an expert on is, helping to build a team and
Mm-hmm.
get buy-in and collaboration across teams. But I really have a talented group. That someone called me recently and they said, wow, Bowling Green they're the best agency in Northwest Ohio, which I thought was really high praise.
That's awesome. I relate to being a generalist too, and I think that makes good creative leaders.
Mhm.
Because, like you said, like you've done everything. You've done all parts of the job, which helped informed your role today. I feel the same way about myself. The only reason I think I'm able to run a video business is because I have done everything from camera to audio to editing to animation to hiring freelancers and stuff like that. So now it just becomes you're good at putting teams together,
Yes.
and assembling people, and what to look for in all those departments because you've done it. And I'm a huge fan of generalists, but then I'm also a huge fan of like knowing when to hire a specialist
Yes.
for stuff. So
You
yeah.
need the perfect mix of both, I think, to be a high functioning team.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, where can people find you at? This has been a great conversation. Where can people find you at if they want to connect with you?
Well, I am on LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn, Amy West, and my email is amywest@bgsu.edu. I'm always happy to connect with people.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, Amy. It was super great to talk to you.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been so much fun.
Hey, thanks so much for listening. 3 things I want to invite you to before you go. Number 1, if you want to know what's working right now in higher ed video, like what videos are getting tons of views, likes, comments, all that, you can get ungated access to our report, aptly named What's Working in Higher Ed Video, a comprehensive guide for higher ed Marcom leaders and content creators. So check it out at unveiled.tv/higher ed video, and you might want to bookmark it because it's designed to be a resource for you that you can keep referring back to for inspiration. Number 2, reminder to sign up for my free newsletter all about content creation and strategy at unveiled.tv/newsletter. And number 3, follow me on LinkedIn. If you're searching for me, my name is John Azzoni. It's spelled Johnazoni. I'm on there all day, every day, for better or for worse, posting regular content and engaging with folks like you. So I'd love to connect with you on there. And with that, we'll catch you on the next episode of the Higher Ed Storytelling University podcast. And as always, I am cheering you on. Okay, bye.